damn chest with Uzi in my do a dipper. Come on, slut from China. Street whore.
If you wanna run away with me, I know a galaxy and I can take you for a ride. I had a premonition that we fell into a rhythm when the music don't stop for life. Glitter in the sky, glitter in my eyes.
You suck my dick, bitch.
If you're feeling like you need a little bit of company, you met me at the perfect time. You want me,
Come on, dick sucker.
my sugar boo.
Suck my dick, bitch.
The Milky Way, we're ready to get it. I got you, moonlight, you're my starlight. I need you all night. Come dance with
Suck
me.
my dick, bitch. You suck my dick, bitch.
I need you all night. Come
You suck my dick, bitch. You suck my dick, bitch.
I believe that you for me, I feel it in our energy. I see it's written in the stars. We can go wherever, so let's do it now or never, baby. Nothing's ever too far. Glitter in the sky, glitter in our eyes, shining just the way we are. I feel like we're forever.
You suck my dick, bitch.
You want me, I want you, baby.
Fucking dick sucker.
I'm levitating, the Milky Way.
From China?
I got you, moonlight,
Suck my
starlight. I need you all night. Come dance with me.
with spit, spit, spit. Suck my slut.
I'm levitating, moonlight,
Suck my slut.
starlight. I need you all night. Come dance with me. I'm levitating.
You suck my dick, bitch. That's my asshole raw. Suck my dick, bitch.
My sugar boo, I'm levitating, the Milky Way, we're renegading. I got you, moonlight, you're my starlight. I need you all night.
Suck my dick, bitch. You suck my dick, bitch. Suck my slut. Move your dick sucker out, put your black ass to stone. Fucking bitch. Come on, you dick sucker. Move your dick sucker. Move your dick sucker. Move your dick sucker. God fucking damn it. Come on, you dick sucker. Move you dick sucker. Move you fucking dick sucker. Now that's gonna cost you, bitch. Come on, you dick sucker from China. Come on, you dick sucker. With long or spit? With spit, spit, spit. With their spit. Suck my slut. You stupid bitch. You know you're so fucked up. You stupid bitch. Now fuck up and take that bishop with your whore. You are gonna have to swap pools. Or else I would stick my dick back. Suck my dick, bitch. God damn it, I fucked up. Cause you just fucked up big time. You could have stuck your dick in my fourth butt. You could have stuck your dick in my fourth butt. Stupid bitch. She looked good spinning around with that. Pussy. Spit. Certain ways you have syrup spit. Syrup spit. With their spits. With their spits. Come on, dick sucker from China. Come on, you dick sucker from China. You Chinese dick sucker from China. Come on, dick sucker from China. Starlight, I need you all night. Come on, dance with me. I'm levitating. Fly away with me tonight. Dick sucker. And she has a spin effect on him. With not quite. Now you're fixing to see. Now I'm fixing to stick my dick in one little piece of butt. You just fucked up. Son of a bitch. God fucking damn it. God fucking damn it. God fucking damn it. God, fuck it. God, fuck it. God, fuck it. God damn it.
Welcome to the Mindshift Podcast. I'm Brandon, and one of the goals here is to keep thinking. This is something that's
God fucking damn it. Come on, you goddamn motherfucker. God fucking damn it. God fucking. God fucking damn, God fucking dick sucker, God fucking damn it, God fuck it. Suck my dick, bitch.
This is something that's very important to me and something that I'm always looking to encourage others to do. One of the things I've been thinking about a lot, I don't even love this term, but kind of the role of the atheist advocate. I think that my guest today will have a really good perspective on this, and maybe there's better ways we can frame this, like reducing religious harm. But either way, to have this conversation and to help me process all of the things I've been considering for the last year and a half, I have a very special guest today, and this is Christy Burke. Christy, welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Thrilled to have you. I am a huge fan. I think anyone in our space at this point knows you. So unfortunately, I don't think I'm doing you any favors. I don't think I'm introducing you to my audience. If they know me, they probably know you. So I don't think we need too big of an intro, but I'm going to ask you a few things just to help us set the stage. But first of all, again, huge fan. I think that you are a wonderful voice in this space. Not only is it nice to have a female speaking in a rather male-dominated space, but you have been deconverted a lot longer, I think, than a lot of people who start doing this. You know, I was only at 3 years when I started the channel, and I think you deconverted at 19.
I did, yeah, it's been like 15 years.
Yeah, and so, you know, for you to have a whole decade under your belt before you really started making any kind of content, if I'm understanding some of the math when you started TikTok and things like that, I think that you have a more mature deconversion going on than many people who do this, and that shows in your videos, and it's also why we're going to be picking your mind today on this topic.
Come on, dick
So I'm very excited to speak with you.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited. I feel like our names get brought up all the time together. I feel like we share the same viewers. All of our subscribers are just kind of crossover. So I think this is going to be really cool for the community.
Yeah, it's we had joked about that in email. It's really funny, whether it's good or bad, by the way, because I've seen, you know, Christian reaction videos that are like, mind shift and Christy Burke both said God is evil, you know, blah, blah, blah. Or a lot of times when I get a really nice comment, it's someone saying, you know, it was you and Christy Burke that really helped me in the last year or something. But yes, our names seem to be constantly attached, and I think it's because we have similar backgrounds and similar styles. So I'm excited to explore that with you today. But my first question to you is, why should we be talking about this? Why should we be thinking about what the role is for any atheist out there? You know, how vocal should we be? What is our responsibility if we even have any? How would you frame that, and why do you think it's important to talk about?
Well, I think within the context of what I do here, my atheism is directly linked to being an ex-Christian, and I think that's really important. I don't get online and talk about this stuff just because I'm an atheist. I get online and I talk about it because I've been through it. I used to be a very devoted Christian, and I have firsthand experienced the harm that comes when people are raised in these ideologies that kind of force them to be a certain way that they may not have otherwise been if they have been raised with freedom, you know, to think and believe and be themselves. And so I've seen firsthand the damage done when you grow up and realize that you might not believe all the things you were taught to believe. And then I look around and I see all of these other people who are going through the exact same thing, who are questioning their faith, who have been taught to believe one thing, but they realize that might not be true. And that causes a lot of confusion. It causes a lot of fear. It creates divides in relationships, you know, with family and church members, community members. And I think that this needs to be talked about. I think that we need to be talking about what people go through when they walk away, and also normalizing a life outside of the faith. And it might not look like atheism. I try really hard not to just promote atheism on my channel, because it's not about that. I don't care if people are atheists. People believe all kinds of things for all kinds of reasons. But I want to normalize being an atheist, being someone who doesn't believe in God, and show that you can still be a good person, you can be a critical thinker, you can live a good life, and you can enjoy your life outside of those, you know, Christian confines.
Yeah, no, that's excellent. And I think it's good reframing. You know, you and I spoke a little bit before the call that reducing harm is a shared goal that we have. And maybe to start off with a hard question that I go back and forth with all the time. I want to be a good advocate for religious freedom and religious belief and freedom of speech and all of these things. And I know there's a lot of Christians out there who would say, but Brandon, I don't have a bad version of Christianity. It's not harmful. It's made my life better, and I want to share that with other people. But I have this nagging thought in the back of my head that's like, well, you're propping up something that is inherently harmful if you believe the core tenets of the text. And so I just go back and forth with like, what is the proper balance in terms of a desire to help people reduce harm, but also not silently condone something that can lead to harm? Let me know if that makes sense and your thoughts around that.
It does. I don't know that there's a perfect balance, and I don't know that there's a perfect answer to that. I think we're all just kind of coming from our own experience and trying to do the best that we can. And when I first started creating content on TikTok, I had this desire to kind of fight against the very thing that harms me, fight against Christianity and help free people from the chains of these ideologies. And as I've grown and I've had more conversations and I've been making this content, I do realize that there are a lot of people who have their own interpretations of this book, of this faith, that don't look like how I was raised, and that they don't necessarily go out and utilize these beliefs to cause harm in the same way that fundamentalists, evangelicals might, or these Christian nationalists. And so I think it's important that we see the distinction, but at the same time, there is what we see as a serious threat, I think, in our country, in our world, to our democracy, to people's personal freedoms. We see children being indoctrinated with these ideologies, and we see people going out and causing a lot of harm in the name of this religion and this book. And so I think approaching it with the intent to be as compassionate and empathetic and understanding as possible, that everyone has their own faith, everyone has their own beliefs, while also raising awareness of how much damage is being done, at least within certain circles of Christianity, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Because I think we can talk about the harm, we can talk about the damage, we can challenge the ideologies, but we can also be understanding, especially as ex-Christians, to the fact that people are only operating from what they know. A lot of people were just raised this way. It's their only reality. They've never had a reason to question it. They trust their pastor, they trust their parents, they trust their church, and they're just doing what they know and what they believe. And until somebody comes along to provide an alternative perspective, to get them to question what they believe, they're just going to keep operating from what they know. And so I really shifted my goal over the last year or so to be more so just a voice for people who are already questioning, who are already walking away, and see that validation and confidence, somebody to ask questions they never thought to ask before, while also trying to be empathetic to believers and to the faith that they hold. I am very much a person who supports religious freedom. I would never vote against the rights of Christians to be Christians or to live out their beliefs, but at the same time, I want them to show me the same respect and not force what they've got going on onto me as well, if that makes sense.
Well, you are going to swap forward.
I've made a similar shift myself. I'm still torn because there are times where I go back and I'm like, well, they're still going to promote the same Bible, right? They're still going to raise their kids with the same thing. And yeah, maybe it's still going to be this better version and it's not as extreme. But I don't want any child reading certain verses or the majority of verses that are in this Bible because I think they are actually harmful. I think they're bad ideas. I think they lead to bad outcomes. But again, I would never want to go further than that. I'm not trying to pass any laws that are going to prevent parents from sharing what they believe with their children. This is something that I've had another conversation recently on. It's like everyone calls everything indoctrination, and I don't like that. I think that people are going to share what they believe. Of course they are. No matter what. Are some things worse beliefs? Yes. Can some of those beliefs lead to worse actions? Yes. But when you start trying to draw those lines, I think you get yourself in some really tricky territory, some very tyrannical ideas, and I don't want that. So I have compromised on the side that you're on, which is, all right, let's make it about empathy, let's make it about freedom, but let's also make it about awareness, where we can just help the people that are either already doubting or deconstructing get more insight and a voice that they're not hearing from the rest of their group, their pastor, their friends, their family, that are continuing to tell them how they're wrong and why they shouldn't be doing these things, etc. So I think we agree there. I think that's good. I think there's still a lot left to kind of iron out. From your own experience, I think you were raised Southern Baptist, is that correct?
I was, yeah.
Do you struggle with the idea of what your parents taught you know, and how they live their life and how they had you living your life? Or are you over that? Did it take time to forgive them? I mean, how do you reconcile your own upbringing with this religion?
That's tough. So I don't have relationships with my parents. I don't have a relationship with my grandparents and several members of my family either. And that was a long process. And I feel like I'm not angry at my parents or my family for doing the best that they could, doing the best for me in their mind. But I don't know. I struggle to answer that because I always kind of teeter on this like personal responsibility. We're all responsible for how we treat one another, but then the way we treat people comes from where we're operating from, what we know about our reality, right? And so, I struggle with that. I have a hard time with how I was treated by my family, by the hypocrisy that I saw in these people that are telling me to follow this religion, but then they're not really exactly following themselves. They kind of make up their own way. And they don't really read what's in the book that they're pushing, And so I struggle with that. I am not mad, though, that they passed on what they thought was the best. And I also understand that they're living in fear. They are afraid that, their child is going to die and go to hell. And that's a very scary, very scary thought. And when people are afraid, they act in really bizarre ways. And so I've had to kind of grow and heal from all of that stuff and really understand that they were just doing the best they could. But unfortunately, I grew up and I went a different way, and now they are responsible for how they treat me moving forward, and it wasn't, they didn't treat me well. So, I had to kind of sever those relationships because of that. And that's really hard, and a lot of people have to go through that. I mean, that's a big part of the reason we do this, right? Because we see how this just like divides people, it like tears people apart because people are very set in their ways and they're very afraid. And I don't think that there's anything to be afraid of when it comes to the Christian religion. I don't think we need to be afraid of hell. I don't think we need to be afraid of God's judgment and God is so angry and upset with us and disappointed. I don't think that those are real fears. And so my goal is to kind of break through those fears, ask people, why do you have these fears in the first place? Let's work through this and really get people to question why they're so afraid, because I think that in turn will change the behaviors, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And if it's too personal, just let me know. But then I'm assuming your separation or boundaries that you have with your family are because of the religious differences, or maybe, once you came out, how you were treated. Is that correct, or is there more to it?
There's more to it than that. Everybody's got their own kind of weird family drama. But I think it all does boil down to that. When I left, when I walked away, I was 19, but I didn't really sever the relationships until probably about 4 years ago or so. And so it was like a long journey of trying to find middle ground with these people. And then after so long of breaking out and being expressive about what I think and pushing back on these ideologies, they didn't like that. They didn't want me to be outspoken, just like all the people in my comments. They don't want me speaking up about it. They want me to just be quiet. If I don't believe, be quiet. And I don't believe in that. I just don't believe in that. I think that if there's something you want to express, you should get to express it. And the people who love you should be willing to, sit with that. That is theirs to sit with. And if they can't sit with that, that's not my fault. And so, after so long, you just have to kind of walk away from those relationships that are bringing you down. And, that's really what it boils down to.
I think that it's really beneficial for people to hear from all kinds of non-believers or ex-converts or whatever you want to call us, because we do have these different stories. I have a lot of relationships that have been impacted, none that I've quite had to completely separate from, and sometimes that I think maybe I am actually the one being unhealthy by allowing this continued negative presence, etc. And it's something our generation in general is going through a lot that I think many generations didn't before, whether it was through loyalty, some warped sense of loyalty, or what we owe our family, or things like that. And we all become adults eventually, and we have to decide what's beneficial to have in our lives. And it can be really hard to be kind of on the first generation that's really willing to do this, to separate, to divorce their parents or their family. And I know there's a lot of pushback and blowback, and then especially from a Christian community, they just look at you as the the wayward child that wanted to sin and wanted to go your own way, and look what it did. This caused division in your family. And I don't want to speak for you, but the frustration that I have, because I've seen that played out so many times, with other people or other relationships, is like, no, you were doing simply the same thing they were. You believed something. You had your own reasons for believing it. You decided you wanted to share that belief, which is evangelism. It's literally what you were raised to do. They just don't like your belief. That's it. That's the only difference. But you can't say that you're wrong for having conviction and holding to your truth and wanting to help people in the way that you see it to be helpful. And so I think that's very frustrating and hard. And I really appreciate your maturity to be still empathetic and understanding where they came from, but also, at some point we have to draw lines in the sand and protect ourselves.
I think just to kind of add to your point there, they raise us in these communities to be bold and to be outspoken and to always say what you believe no matter what. Go out into the world and share what you believe, right? They raise us with these core values of never backing down from your convictions. And so I think it's really interesting that when we do the deep diving, we try to learn and we're soaking up this knowledge, and then we realize that, our beliefs are changing, our perspective is changing, and then we talk about that. We continue to be bold and outspoken and go out and express ourselves. Now that's demonized, right? Now they're like, no, be quiet. Yeah. We don't like you to talk about what you don't believe. Don't be bold. And I think that's really interesting. And I wish that more Christians would kind of sit and chew on why that is, on why they would raise us to be so outspoken and to train us to go into the world and do these missions and try to save people. But then the moment our perspective changes and we're seeing it a different way that they are, they no longer want us to hold those qualities that they instilled within us to begin with. So I think it's really interesting.
Yeah, it's a weird dichotomy, because I also see it, you'll be encouraged by your Christian pastors and mentors and things like this to, really study the Bible, really dig in and learn God. And you'll also be encouraged to even doubt, wrestle with God. And then as soon as you read too much, you studied too hard, or you doubted and went too far, then it was, what were you doing? It's about a relationship with God. You don't need to be pouring through the scriptures. It should have been about what Jesus was revealing in your heart. And it's like the script absolutely flips the second it doesn't align anymore. And it's so frustrating, because what I cry on my channel all the time is just consistency. I don't care if we believe different things, but be consistent. Be consistent. If you think this is what the Bible said, then do it. If you are going to tell a child to act this way, then when they act that way, don't shun them. Consistency is the name of the game, I think. And I wonder, I hadn't really thought about this until you just brought this up. Oftentimes, those who recently deconvert, or who have deconverted in general, they do become very vocal, even if they don't start a channel. I think we can all think of that person who became an atheist, and it's like all they want to talk about for a while, right? Do you think it's a reflex to a huge life change, or do you think that it is kind of this instilled personality type of be bold, evangelize, all the things you were saying, like we were raised to try to convince others to believe the same. And I never really considered that. Am I just doing this because I'm a missionary kid and I'm still being a missionary? It's just a different belief set. So why do you think people become so vocal when they do? Not everyone does, of course, but maybe walk me through your opinions there.
I think it's a little bit of both. Yeah, you do see this kind of stereotype of this ex-Christian or new atheist who just wants to just kind of fight back, and I think that it's a reflex. I think it can be a trauma response. We're trying to defend something, and we have realized something, and we want to get it out there. But I don't know that we would be so eager to get it out there if we weren't first given these requirements to be that kind of person. We were kind of molded into that type of person that is supposed to go out and save souls and help people and share the truth with everyone. That kind of becomes a part of who you are. And so I think it's a combination. I think you see these people who, most of the time when people leave the Christian church, they do so after having been very passionate about being in the church in the first place. I think we see some of the most devoted people, the people who wanted answers, who just had a thirst for knowledge. Those are the people that often walk away because they dig in deeper than the average Christian who's just going to church, letting their pastor read them a nice fluffy verse, going home, doing their little devotional, and then closing the book and walking away.
Man, she sucks. And she's starting to look old, too. Goddamn slant-eyed slut from China! spit. With their spits.
Hey everybody, good evening, and welcome to tonight's live stream.
Suck
And
my
we'll get started in
slut.
just a moment.
I said
Tonight's
suck
topic
my
is gonna be
slut.
red flags about Christianity that you should have seen, but didn't. So
Suck
today's
my
night is a chance for everyone to come on. This is an open mic, so we're looking for any brave souls that
You
are
suck my
willing
dick, bitch.
to join me, and we'll look through. I'll look through the people who want to come on and try to give everybody a chance, depending on how many people come on. Try to give everybody a chance to be in the live stream if you want to. Hey, Stephen, great to see you. And if we end up having just a few, then we'll maybe linger a little bit longer. If there's a whole bunch of people that come on,
I just don't give a
then we'll
damn.
try to keep it to like
Yes.
4 or 5
And what
minutes
minute
max per person. But hey, Anna, voice right, great to see you again. Happy Saturday evening. So thanks so much for joining us tonight. And in terms of tonight's topic, again, we're looking at red flags about Christianity that you should have seen but didn't. And I think that was probably one that is, as I thought about this, trying to have like an open mic night, I thought, I don't want to make this so complicated that you're sitting there thinking, what could I come on and say, what could I come on and say? And I think this one's kind of I hope it's somewhat of a softball, to be honest. Not in the sense that it's an easy topic or not emotionally charged in many ways, but it shouldn't be that hard to think of some red flags.
I just shit in my
pants. I've certainly got a bunch on my radar in my mind. Whoops.
I just shit in my
Froze a little bit.
pants.
Hopefully,
I just shit in my pants.
close out a few programs here, see if that makes a difference.
I just shit in my pants.
But I've got a lot on my plate. So who's going to be joining us tonight? Hey, Elena, great to see you.
I
Watching
just shit in my
sunset. It's
goddamn
awesome.
drawers.
I'm a little jealous. I need some more vitamin D, that's for sure. I got
I
up
just
at
shit in my
5:15
pants.
this morning, a.m. Eastern. Took a
God
long
fucking
walk
damn it.
before the sun came up, and walked for about an hour and a half. And then jumped into work the minute I got back home, and I have not left this computer since that moment.
I just shit in my
Whatever that was,
pants.
6:30, 6:45, 7 o'clock this morning. So anyway,
I shit in my
I hope you all
pants.
had a productive day. I hope you got more vitamin D and fresher than I did. And I got seeing some freezing, so bear with me 1 second. I want to close the program or two and see if that makes a difference. I apologize for that. So hopefully it doesn't freeze too much, but I want to kick us off here. I'll talk through a few, but I would love to hear your thoughts.
God
I
damn
do a lot
it,
of
God
live streams
damn
where
it,
it's mostly
God
my
damn
thoughts, but anyone who wants to join, feel free.
I just
And if
shit
I
in my
mention, if you were going to
pants.
mention, feel free to come on and say, hey, you
Suck
stole
my dick,
my,
bitch.
stole my thunder, and just we'll pretend I didn't say it, and you just take us away. One of the biggest red flags I think about is the demand for absolute obedience.
Suck my dick,
Absolute
bitch.
obedience. Christianity requires complete submission,
Suck my.
as we
God
know,
damy it.
to its worldview, to its doctrines,
God
and that
fucking
often
damn it.
discourages critical thinking and questioning.
God
I
fucking.
think you could argue that that is a red flag.
God fucking damn
Certainly
it.
very cultish. You turn to burn. You think like us, or bad news bears. It's all over. That's a red flag. Marie, great to see you. Marie Tate from San Diego joining us. Thank you so much. We appreciate you being here. Accent agnostic, great to see you. Linda Cole joining. Thank you so much. And if anyone can't see it, I do have the link
Now
at the
fucking.
top of the
God
comment
damn
that
it.
we'll have
God
once
damn
more.
it. God.
If anybody cares to join, feel free. No pressure. No pressure either way, but I would love to have you if you want to. Just come on for 3, 4, 5 minutes. And while, before I go through any more on my mind in terms of red flags, I was going to mention that I'm working on a couple projects and I wanted to make sure everyone
God
knew about them.
fucking damn it.
Because I would love, once I get this ready, hopefully the next day or so, I would love to just have a lot of
God
people do
fucking
this.
damn it.
I am working on like a Dropbox or Google Drive link or something
Suck my.
where I'm going to be able to have you all submit a video that is, relatively short. It's like 60 seconds or less, give or take. It can be a little bit over 60, and I'll edit it down. But something that would fall in the category of a YouTube short. And I would love to have anyone that wants to do that basically just come on, get on your camera, on your cell phone, pretend I'm on right now. Get on your cell phone and record yourself. Hey, this is me. This is my journey. I've been a Christian for 30 years. I went to Bible college. I studied this. I thought about that. It doesn't make sense. I'm so glad I've escaped Christianity. Anything like that you want to do as a short, just send it to me. If you want to email it to me, if it's small enough of a file, email it to me. My email address, I'll put it in here. It's monacatheist@yahoo.com. And if you're with me on Facebook, my handle's @harmonictim. Facebook, I've got that in the comments as well. Please feel free to friend request me, and you probably can send me a short there, and I can probably download it. But just let me know when you're ready, and I'll be trying to make this really streamlined in terms of a process, because I'm going to be sending out the link. I'm also going to be doing another link. I came across a little issue with it because of the probable file sizes, but something where it's like 3 to 5 minutes. I would say portrait. Chick Magnet, thanks for asking that question. For the shorts, and even for the longer ones, do it like this, because most people are going to watch on their phones. If you do it in landscape, I'll edit it how, perhaps portrait mode, or switch it up. Or, I might just, if it looks okay, I might leave it as it is, but portrait mode preferably. Assume people will watch on their cell phones. So, but I'll be bringing that to you.
I see a nice dick in your feet,
when I can, but that would do a couple things for me. Number one, it would help me just have more content to produce. It wouldn't take much to edit a quick 60-second video. And then again, once I have it available, for you to send me a 3 to 5 minute video. If you go a little bit over 6-7 minutes, it's okay. But something short where, again, you're just telling your story. But send it to me, I'll edit it up just a little bit, and then publish it. You can tell me how you want it, if you want your name on there, you want to be anonymous, whatever it is. We'll do whatever you need to, whatever you want. It'll end up being a chance for you to do a quick sharing of your story. And also for anyone that wants to do their...
I see a dick in your future. I see a dick.
Where it's like a 2-hour interview, but you're ready to, not ready to do it yet. Maybe you want to take more time. You're just too busy. You want to upgrade your equipment, whatever. This would be a quick way to just send me a quick video. I'll publish it. And everyone kind of gets to know you a little bit. Kind of sort of a teaser for what's to come. So anyway, keep that in mind. I'd love to have you all
suck my dick, bitch.
The time is right. Or again, if you want to just start sending me stuff by email and our Facebook for now for free. I'll put that on blast very shortly. Also wanted to mention, I'm going to be sending out a reminder and a link to the September 21st, which is a Saturday, 2 Saturdays from now. But is that right?
Dick!
2 Saturdays from now. Dick! Sending out a link for the Poetry Slam, the Deacon Version Poetry Slam. I would love to have people sign up. Last time we did it, it was sort of, I didn't put it on blast as much, so I didn't know how many people would sign up. I didn't want everybody coming, trying to have 100 people share poetry. It didn't end up being much, so I'm going to have a sign-up sheet so we know there's at least like 10 people coming.
Dick, bitch.
And I'd love to have you do that. Please get your poetry out. If you haven't seen it in a while, pull it out of your journal. If you haven't written anything, get to work. Get to work. Tell us what's in your heart. Put some emotion into it, and practice it in front of the mirror a few times, and then get on and read it. What we would do is just have you come on, share your name, read your poem, and then tell us a little bit afterwards about what it meant to you to write that and just your journey. So that'll be quick hits. Now let me read some comments here, and then again, if anybody wants to join in terms of showing up to join in the live stream, you're very welcome to. Linda Cole says, just Solution Pony Trick says, hi, y'all. Linda Cole says, red flag requirement to park your brain. Why you gotta give us a brain then? Yeah, like, as in like, check your brain at the door. I'm guessing kind of what you mean by that. Yeah, just like shut it down. Just believe and don't ask too many hard questions. Just kind of ignore the man behind the curtain. Agreed 100%. Mark Vanderpool says, the story of Job and his son is appalling. The story of Jephthah and his daughter is worse. Yeah, that is crazy. The story of Job with his sons with his kids. Basically Job being the pawn in this little gamble and game, and this silly discussion between God and Satan, saying, I'll bet you that Job's going to curse you, and God says, no, he won't. Yes, he will. No, he won't. God decides to let Satan have his way, and Satan ends up destroying his whole family and property. Very sad. The story of Jephthah and his daughter. Yeah, that's a red flag. If anyone doesn't know that one, it's in the book of Judges, right? And that's the story of Jephthah saying, God, if you give me victory today in this battle, I will slaughter whatever comes out of the door first when I get home. And of course, it's his daughter. Now, just FYI, or happy, blessed or happy. Happy is the one who sees it.
Where everybody's completely wiped out and we're supposed to be okay with that. The massive death scale that God brings in from the flood and everything else, how am I supposed to have human empathy when the God I serve in the Bible doesn't have even empathy for his own son? To me, now looking back at it, that's got to be the biggest red flag. I should have seen a lot of this tearing away of my empathy towards others by simply looking at human beings in the Bible that were just doing their thing. I mean, I'm glad most of it's probably mythology, because if that's real history, then God is a terror. He's absolutely a terror.
Yeah. But it was just looking at your channel quick before you go on. I just want to comment the live stream you were just doing. I'm sorry, I did not mean to schedule mine intentionally at the same time as yours. But
if I worried about when I scheduled my live streams with other atheists, I'd never schedule a live stream. We are on here a lot. Okay, we are on here a lot.
But just to give everyone a heads up, the live stream we just did, which I'm going to go back and watch it after we're done here, but it's called How Christianity Reduces Empathy. So that was a continuation of a discussion, but that is really good stuff. And just if you look at the list of your videos, you're doing amazing work. Great stuff. It looks like you're doing at least a live around at least once a week, if not more. You're doing your own monologues as well. Woven in there, you're doing awesome work, man.
No, thank you very much. I'm trying to think as former pastors, I feel, I guess, a little sense of obligation in trying to get people off this Christianity path, at least. It's not helpful to you. It's not helpful. And there's a lot of red flags that we all should have seen. I get it, but when you grow up in the church and you're indoctrinated to believe this stuff, it's hard. It really is hard. And so, yeah, I mean, I tell people I'm just trying to normalize atheism and deconversion. That's all I'm trying to do, is make it a normal thing where people don't treat you badly because you're doing it, where they understand it. So it may take the rest of my life, but that's okay. It's okay. So, but
just curious with your background as a pastor, which I can sort of relate to, but I can't relate to all the way. I did go to school to be a pastor and a missionary. I didn't end up doing either one eventually because of some other side stuff. That's a story for another day. But I got real close to it. I did a lot of pastor ministry, did a lot of street preaching, a lot of soup kitchen preaching, but I was never actually a pastor. But could you tell me, in terms of your experience as a pastor, some of the red flags now that you can see, I know that it was different when we were in it, but some of the red flags in terms of church leadership, whether you want to talk about emotional manipulation or the worship or whatever, like what are some of the red flags that people that are in church should be able to go to church tomorrow, if they're going to church tomorrow, and say, wait a second, I can see it right in front of me, there's red flags in this church with the pastor and the worship and what we're saying.
Right in front of you. The fact that your pastor during his sermon probably has to justify so much stuff. Okay, the fact is, if you look at preaching in general, how much of it is justifying the morality of the Bible as compared to today? I think you would probably see that quite a bit in churches across America, in particular. Like if you take an issue like slavery or women are supposed to be subservient to men or the LGBTQ issues, you're going to see a lot of particularly fundamentalist ministry, try to justify why that's okay. Okay, why all this? You're going to see that from a former Pentecostal perspective. I would say if you go to a Pentecostal church and they're saying you got to experience Jesus, I would remind you that you can experience anything in a church or any religion. That doesn't prove a thing. And if they're hinging everything on the experience with God aspect, that's a red flag. It's not, do you have an experience? It's whether or not you have the truth. Do you have the facts about it? And, Christianity has a lot of very false facts that they like to throw out there. So I think if look at what your pastor is asking you to believe, okay, and think about that. When I first heard the one preacher talk about slavery and how it was nothing more than a contract relationship, I'm like, oh, not even close. You're trying to justify something horrible and make it seem lesser. If you see a lot of language like that, that's a red flag to me now. It's why I can't go into a church anymore. It just angers me. When I hear
damn it.
I react to preachers. Now, having done it, I realize now how much I try to justify the Bible all the time in the modern context, and it just doesn't work. It doesn't work anymore. It's too old. It's just this old morality from the Iron Age that just doesn't work anymore. And we're trying to hang on to it. And if you hear your preachers or your leadership trying to justify this, I think that's a red flag. I really do. We've gotten better. We've gotten better. Are we the best yet? No, but we've gotten better, and we need to kind of move that direction.
Now, fucking move right here.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off that, I've told people on my channel a few times that one of the big ways that just shocks me to look back on it, even in my own thinking as a Christian, was that not only would I hear preachers justify it, but I got wrapped up in the theology myself, especially of Calvinism, and the idea that God pretty much can do whatever he wants. You start getting into Romans 9, 10, 11. He's the potter, we're the clay. He has the right to make a lump of clay for a glory and another one for destruction. And other passages that say, what good is a vine that doesn't produce grapes? Well, it doesn't do much. You can't make a board out of it and turn it into a table. You can't make wine out of it. Well, then what good is it? Well, you can dry it out and make it burn, and that fire burns brighter. Like God gets glory because you're going to basically make that fiery hell burn brighter. And when you're a Christian who specializes in Calvinism, and you believe that stuff, and you don't just say, I will bow my knee to it, but I don't really like it. You're actually proud of it. You're proud that God is going to make His glory and His holiness shine by destroying and torturing people. I mean, that's some sick-ass stuff, and we can talk.
I think I'm very leery of preachers who love hellfire anymore. But I grew up in a church where hellfire preachers came around once a month, and there's kind of this, if you got to be scared into believing in something, I think there's a problem. Okay, I think there's a problem. And I hear what you're saying, because I was dealing with this week with a comment where the guy is just like, well, these people had to be killed because they were in the way of God's plan of salvation. If your plan of salvation requires a whole bunch of people to be killed to get them out of the way, I think you have a problem. I think your theology has a problem, and it's kind of scary when you see people in the pew thinking that way, and they're thinking that, like, another good red flag is the congregation is complete lockstep with the preacher, like they never challenge their preacher. That is a big red flag in a church. Even if you're a Christian, I would be wary of that, because that's a cult. That's somebody who has a cult following, and you have to really watch yourself in those kind of churches. I used to be leery of those when I was a pastor, because if you're in lockstep with your preacher, everybody is right behind him. That's going to be a problem. Okay, and it's a scary thing. Now that I look back at it, some of the things that I could have done as a pastor, how I could have led people into something, it overwhelms me now a little bit sometimes. This is why I have therapy. So
it's amazing when you look at some of the churches, and I don't think I was really exposed closely to what I'm about to say, but there are some churches where you do not question your pastor ever, and especially if you really feel like he's got a special anointing and a special office, where you're like, you don't, like, even if he's dead wrong, you don't speak against him. God will punish him if he needs to punish. That's between him and God. But nobody questions that man, especially not publicly.
We used to have that in the Pentecostal church all the time. It was touch not the Lord's anointed, and the pastor's the anointed. And what I could have done with that was now it just scares the living. I saw it done by others, and I don't know, maybe it's because I had this inherent honesty of realizing who I was. It probably would let me out of the faith too, but the ego trip that you get from religion sometimes blocks this idea, and this is particularly true with pastors. You're God's chosen to speak to this people. You're God's anointed. Even if you don't personally feel that, you can believe it and act on it. And I watch tons of pastors just abuse that and justify all kinds of things. If you see people justifying a lot of actions that are harmful to others because they're God's anointed, that's probably
one more before you drop. If there's anything else you wanted to share, please do before you drop it. The idea sometimes of how we see people, whether it's pastors or lay people, blaming people that are going through suffering and saying, even though on the surface, you look like that you're the victim of suffering, you're the victim of a bad medical diagnosis or car accident or something, that we would often in the Christian community blame people and say, God wants to bless you, He wants to give you, a future and a hope, but He's disciplining you because He loves you, like a father would discipline his child. But like, why won't you bend your knee? And like, for example, for my life, I had, as you remember from our conversation, I had severe insomnia for 25 years, and I had a pastor who told me, there's a verse that says the Lord gives to His beloved sleep, and therefore, if you're one of His beloved and you're in a relationship with Him, He would absolutely give you restful sleep. You should sleep better than anyone else on the planet. You're a child of God, but you haven't slept well for 25 years. There is a sin problem, and of course, like I've talked about, I moved down to Georgia for a very special doctor, cured it in 1 month with no medicine. It had nothing to do with sin. It had to do with left brain, right brain stuff. But it took me, all those years to think, what is my hidden sin that won't let me get sleep? Have you seen that sort of sense of blaming victims for suffering in the church?
Okay, you're a sinner, and that's why you have the problem. Okay, you are inherently flawed. Okay. And only God can save you from that. But the problem I've had with that recently is I've had people come on my channel and make a comment, God's going to make you go through something horrible so you come back to Him. I'm like, how is that any different than the mentality of an abuser saying, I'm going to hurt you so you come back to me? How is it that we can justify the mentality of abuse and abusers and say that's a good thing? And I don't think that way anymore. If God exists, which I don't think He does, okay, and He wanted me to come back to Him, wouldn't it be better if He genuinely loves me that He would do it with a loving act instead of that I couldn't deny was Him, instead of trying to make me go through all this crap to bring me back? And if I'm going through something, I must be sin when you're in the church. How is that not abusive? How is that not manipulative by its nature? And I've gotten rid of that mentality. It was one of the reasons I stay away from faith now, for that reason, because I'd have to go back into this justified cycle of abuse. I'd have to mentally scramble my brain again. And I just don't want to do that. I don't want to do it anymore. But, yeah.
Interesting. Was there any other thoughts in your mind about any other red flags?
I just wanted to get on, touch base with you again. We try to stay in touch, I know, but I saw what you were talking about, and I'm saying, well, I just talked about that a few minutes ago. I thought I'd drop in and say hello and let you know, continue the good work, Tim. I appreciate everything you do.
Thank you.
What you're doing. So,
Likewise, very much.
I know you have a lot of struggles, and you've had a lot of struggles. The fact that you kept on going does my heart good. Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Likewise. And in the verbiage we used to use, I'm blessed and highly favored that I got to see you tonight. You are always welcome. Anytime.
Okay, all right. It was great. Thank you.
Thanks, Ed. And again, for anyone that doesn't know Ed and his channel, I put the link in. So I still have it in my. Yeah, I want to put it in one more time. Please go like and subscribe. Ed is amazing. He's a former pastor. It's there's something special about seeing someone that was that knows how the sausage is made. That was on the inside track. There are several pastors I've had. There's certain other pastors that we see in our community talking about this stuff, but there's a lot of bravery, and I know we can always say stuff like, well, you all were, part of the problem. Yeah, I was too. I admit it. I wasn't a full pastor yet. I was working that way, but I did an awful lot of preaching over the years, an awful lot of ministry, certainly an awful lot of stuff in my church, an awful lot of preaching to youth group for years, and I was deep enough that I did some damage, and we those of us who escape, we realize what we did. Many of us are deeply apologetic, and we're sorry. We go back to individuals and try to make it right, and we also try to just generically in the community sort of do some things to make sure that we're making a difference in the other direction. Ed is one of those guys that has that heart of love for the people that have been stuck in it, just like he was. He was a pastor, but he was also a victim of it himself. And he got out. He made such a beautiful choice to create a platform and to say he's going to help other people see past the veil of lies and of this of these red flags. Really, the red flags that he eventually saw. He couldn't do it anymore. I'm so grateful to people like him. He's done such a good job, and others like him trying our best to let people know, hey, we who were in leadership or we who were involved in ministry on some large level, we were wrong, we're sorry, and we collectively all need to say, what's the truth of what's really going on? Let's look at the wizard behind that curtain. Yahweh is not who we thought he was. Jesus is not who we thought he was. The Bible is not what we thought it was. A lot of respect for these guys who are willing to do a 180 and say, I was completely wrong. I admit it.
God damn it.
I have so much respect for that. It's a hard thing. And for a lot of those people, too, that was their whole bread and butter. That was the only way that they made money, was by being a pastor. So it's a hard journey. And that's why there's groups like the Clergy Project to help pastors to say, we understand that if you leave Christianity and you therefore leave your pulpit ministry, you're starting from scratch. So a lot of respect for those people who've gone through that. And there's probably a lot of pastors that we could see tomorrow morning if we were in church. Glad that we're probably not. But if we could go to a lot of churches, there's probably some pastors we could hear preaching sermons even tomorrow morning. And truth be told, they'd be preaching the word, and inside they're saying, I don't really think I believe this stuff anymore. It's a hard place to be. Read a few more comments here again. If anybody wants to jump in, feel free. We're almost at an hour. I'll go a little bit past an hour. For sure, I don't want to ignore the comments too much, but I know that we're approaching an hour here, but I'll read through at least a few more here. Let's see here. Steve says, a huge red flag that we missed was how our former Christian communities treat atheists. Yeah, that is a big one. Yeah, if you're not in our club, then you're a fool, as the Bible would say. You are a fool. And therefore we are going to treat you as an outsider and hate on you. Katie Asparagus, circumcision has left me with sensitivity issues. It also planted in my brain that from birth I wasn't good enough. I had to be modified. Yeah. And that one, honestly, I've had people say to me, stop talking about circumcision. I'm not going to stop talking about it. It's one of the stupidest things out there. The idea that there's a God who says, I created everything, and as soon as I make it, I declare it is all good. But 8 days later, I want you to do genital mutilation on the little boys. And I know in other religions they do that as do genital mutilation on the girls. That is just one of the craziest
now,
things.
Now, fuck up and move this whore right here.
Craziest things. Let's see here. Marshall Jackson, Jesus' birth is interesting. There's such a big circus. where even magi come from the far east land of gifts, a king who kills all boys to another, yet all of a sudden, when he grows up, he's crucified by his people for stating he's the same baby you guys already knew about. Not sure if that's a red flag, but absolutely hilarious to me. Yeah, so much of that is copied. It's the rewriting of the Old Testament stories from the Moses story, and it's just crazy. Let's see here. I've got someone who wants to jump in here. Let me hide this comment. Follow, great to see you again.
Hi.
It's been a minute. How you been?
Well, I said I'd jump in since time is running by. No one's coming on.
Well, I appreciate that. What red flags are coming to your mind today?
I had a quick question about the you know how they have the Old Testament people living for really long? Is that a real thing? Do you know? So as a kid, I used to wonder, like, is this a real thing that people are living 1,000 years? Do you know?
I've heard a couple explanations for it. I think the big one that stands out is I've heard that it's a different system of math. That in a certain system, they just use different numbers. And if you convert the numbers from that system to the system that's in most of the Bible, it's actually a much more average, typical number. I don't know if that's the right explanation. I've heard some things that relate more to numerology. I don't know that that's the right explanation. I'm not sure what the right answer is. I think it's pretty obvious that if it were to be taken literally, the way we have it in our current Bibles, that it's not correct. It's obviously made up. If we were to take it away, I don't know for sure if that's how the original people meant it. I think it's possible that is a lost in translation issue, that they may have been saying these guys did live for a long time, but it wasn't 900 years, it was 70, 80 years. But again, I'm not 100% sure.
Okay, because that's something that I remember as a kid thinking, with the creation story, that was one, like living, all those old people living so long, and then also obviously the Cain and Abel, who did they marry, things of that nature. But the other thing is what was already mentioned today, obviously, about just, still hard to say, but like kind of the inhumanity of God, like just kind of the meanness, the Old Testament, the disregard for human life. I know somebody already talked about Job, but just the fact that you think you can replace someone's kids just by giving them more was kind of weird. I think as a kid I felt, oh my gosh, I can't be replaced. What do you mean? So that was, and then also just the I was confused in the Old Testament about the purpose of the law. I know that they say that it's. I think it's supposed to be a precursor, because Jesus fulfills it. But it was just so. I didn't quite understand. Like, is it to make society better, or is it just to prove how bad we are? Like how bad we really are. Like we can't. I didn't know if it was a shame or what. That was confusing to me what the laws are for. If they were made really to be broken, or anyway. So that was kind of weird. I felt on God's part. And then random. Not to trigger anyone, but the Old Testament has like the issue of barrenness. So like. I feel like God curses in the Bible, right? Curses people with barrenness and then blesses people with kids. And it was just weird because growing up, my pastor, he and his wife, they couldn't have kids for some reason. I'm not sure. I was a kid, so I'm not really sure what it was, but I just thought that was weird. Like, not weird, but sorry. I'm not really laughing, but I did feel like, oh, this must be a weird position to be in, to be like leaders of this big church. You can't have kids. And it's like I read the Bible, and it seems like that's kind of a curse of some sort. So that was kind of a little bit problematic for me. But I guess the last thing, I think I said it in the chat too. Well, actually, I won't talk about that one. I don't know, but basically right now, I kind of feel like a cliche, because I was thinking about it the other day, that the Bible, I feel like it's all about a good, righteous, loving God is supposed to be. And every chapter of the Bible is people walking away and turning their backs, like every chapter, every book, like the whole thing. And so, yeah, so now I kind of feel a little bit like a cliche, like I'm wandering away, so I kind of feel like, isn't this all so predictable? But I'm I'm kind of trying to change my mindset and think like, well, maybe the problem is somewhere else. Like if people are constantly turning their backs, maybe there's, maybe the problem lies elsewhere. So that's kind of where what I'm thinking these days. But
yeah, I think it's a great point. When you look at the Old Testament, especially, it is a constant story of Yahweh failing. He fails over and over and over. He keeps on telling his people, I've got this great plan for you. I'm going to do miracles. Just I need you to obey me, and we'll be great. And they keep on turning away. It's like, God, if you've got some great plan where there's going to be some kind of continuous, wonderful blessing, like it keeps on falling apart, often within one generation, but for sure within 2 or 3. The generation falls apart, people walk away from God, they're back to idols, and then he has to slaughter them again and send them away to this Babylon and there. It's nonstop. God's plan keeps on falling flat on his face, and it's like, if he's that smart and he can see in advance.
The explanation is that he's, so holy, like he's so, you know what I mean? He's so, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, if he can see in advance it's all going to keep on failing, then he could use his foreknowledge to make a different outcome so that there be success. He keeps on failing. I mean, you look at the book of Judges, you look at all these wars, over and over, they have these little steps forward towards God and they fall apart. But even the ones forward, like King David, King David was an absolute horrible man. The fact that Christians sing his psalms in church is staggering. And so even on the highlight guys, men of renown, so to speak, God was still not really winning. People were compromised. The first king, Saul, are horrible. So many ways in which the men of God, even the prophets, kept on looking like they were all failing. And it's like, if God is so real and he's so transformative and he can make things so beautiful and get them on the right track, then why does it keep falling apart for everybody? It falls apart, and I think that's one of the biggest things for us experientially, is that it just keeps falling apart. And a lot of my interviews, people say that, like, for some people, like myself, it was more like what I studied the mythology, that got me up, but for a lot of people, it's just like a slow drip of like, this just doesn't make sense. It keeps on falling apart. Where is God in all this stuff? Isn't he so miraculous and amazing? Can't he show up big and prove himself? But he never really does. And there's a reason he never really does, because he's not there. Where are you, by the way, with that? Are you still considering yourself a Christian?
Yeah, I was actually going to ask the guy you just had on, because I think I like the way he sounds too. I was going to ask if I don't know what his community is like, but if he is welcoming to people that are also like not fully out yet. I mean, I'll check him out, but...
Yeah, that is awesome. He would welcome any comments or discussions, whatever, from anybody. And again, I welcome them. I'm not opposed to people who are still thinking through it. My big thing is just I don't have any time for anybody that's trying to come on as like someone that's trying to proselytize and say, hey, you all are idiots and Jesus is real. If you're seriously questioning, you're completely welcome in this community in every which way. We love people who are asking questions. We don't want trolls. And the trolls are always out.
I had my first triggering religious conversation today. Like, I've never had. They always joke about don't talk about politics, don't talk about religion. But today was the first conversation I had with someone that I felt like maybe my blood pressure, because I'm usually, whatever, chill, laid back, doesn't matter. But this guy, I had to like call 3 different people to be like, I'm not crazy, right? This is, that was kind of problematic. Yeah, so I understand that. So.
Yeah. Well, keep us in mind. We'd love to keep the discussion going. I'm going to be doing these call-ins most Saturdays, apart from the poetry slams, the decompression poetry slams. So if you want to call in another week or two, whatever, please jump in.
I really want to weigh in on the, that thing that you moved to 919. I don't know if you'll be taking comments on that particular. I don't want to talk about it again. But that one that you, hopefully you'll be taking comments, because I always wonder, if I would still be a Christian if I didn't like struggle with that sin so long. Like, anyway, so not talk about that again. But
the questions of masturbation and pornography.
So hopefully there will be some comments read on that one because so much to say about that.
I hope so. The reason I postponed it was, like I said, some people had some good caveats to add, and I thought I better think those caveats carefully. There are some people where if you say something like pornography is sometimes acceptable, they'll be just like, no, it's not ever acceptable. And I completely disagree with that conclusion. There's different ways to see that topic, but I'm not against pornography in all forms. And I think I just need to clarify those caveats as we get in that discussion. But hopefully the big picture is going to be the big picture that we need to embrace eroticism. Christianity just decimates our ability to say erotic pleasure and desires and the desire to connect, the desire to be physically intimate, the desires for sexual activity. Like, it is not bad at all. And Christianity just makes you feel so shameful and guilty over it for all of us. And it's like, that's my big picture. I want to keep, I'll touch on the pornography question a little bit more in terms of the caveats and context, but I want to keep bringing it back to, let's focus, let's get rid of the shame. There's nothing wrong. We are glorified in a sense, not glorified spiritual-wise, but we're evolved animals, we're glorified animals. We're part of the animal kingdom. Animals don't look at their desire to have sex and have any kind of shame, as far as we can tell. They just know that their instincts say, go have sex, it's a good thing. And as much as we have developed differently, I think there's a part of us that needs to just go back and say, we're still animals with a strong sex drive, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, there's a lot of little nuances and little subtopics to get into, but big picture, just celebrate the fact that this is a really cool part of our lives, and we're pretending when we say we should be ashamed of ourselves.
I think one of the reasons I actually still have issues, don't like animals so big is that might be too much information here. But anyways, it's related to that topic. I think I'll talk about it later. But yeah.
Stupid cunt.
Sounds good. Well, you're always welcome. I appreciate your question and your comments. And great to see you on this. You've been on twice, so you're going to become a regular for long.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Bo. Bye-bye.
I'm fixing to fuck your butt.
All right, thank you so much. And see, you're going back to a few quick comments here. Why would his chosen people constantly choose to worship other gods if you are the only creator of the universe? Yeah, that's a really good one. We've got a very good point. If it's so clear that he's so powerful, he's so real, why are you so tempted to go after Asherah and the Baals? But if there's just tribalism, this tribe must always worship Baal, this tribe always worships this god and that god and Shamash and all that, and you're intermarrying as tribes, of course you're going to have different gods that come into the equation. Makes a lot more sense. God casts out fear, but you want to fear him. Yeah,
fucking pissed.
Very good point. Perfect love casts out fear, 1 John, but the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Which one is it? Are we afraid of him? I know the Christian message, it's just reverence. No, it's fear. The Hebrew says it's a fearful thing to fall into the hands of the living God. He is a consuming fire. God wants you to be afraid of him, according to some passages, like tremblingly afraid of him. And yet perfect love casts out fear. Moonbeam Goddess, it's a different kind of fear. Yeah, exactly. Todd Butler, great to see you here. Red flag when honest questions are asked, but responses are nonsensical or certain or arguments, or you just have trust. Like, we don't know the answers, but know the one who does. Yeah, exactly. Shit. Very, very good point, Todd. And I believe I owe you an email, if I'm not mistaken. So I will be back in touch with you as soon as I can. But just to piggyback on that, I think a lot of us really have almost a pride of saying, I don't have to have the answers. I almost don't want the answers. I want to just trust God, put it all on the altar. At first, we're like, I'm going to search the answers. I want to be a Berean. I'm going to, rightly divide the word of truth. But you get to this faith place where you're like, you know what? I'm going to be a Berean. I'm going to search, but I'm also going to, on a deeper, more profound spiritual level, I'm going to surrender. I don't know the answers. I just need to trust. Trust your daddy. He'll take good care of you.
I want the goddamn answers.
When we speak with those still in the Jesus matrix, we are the serpent in the garden offering them the fruit of knowledge. They are afraid to even touch it. To do so is to question God. Yeah, that's a great metaphor, great way to put it. Very well said. Yeah, we become the dangerous people, and they certainly poison the well, I'm sure. Walk with three. If Jesus was taken to Herod's temple at 8 days old, how come Herod hadn't just killed him there? It seems very odd. Well, Jesus wouldn't have been there. He would have been in Egypt, I think, at that point, if I'm not misunderstanding your question. But he did eventually go to Herod's temple. I think was it at age 12, that is very much a astrotheological as well as a gematria numerology number when Jesus finally came. But yeah, I think he was in Egypt for most of his younger years, and then eventually came back. But feel free to reach out privately if I'm misunderstanding your point there. Mark says, are you familiar with the Gnostic premise that Christ was not the incarnation child of Yahweh? That the ruthless war god of the Old Testament is Yaldabaoth, the demiurge, the devil? I'm familiar enough to know what you're referring to. I couldn't do a class about it without going through some background information and get some notes together. But I'm familiar with what you're referring to, yeah. And I think that was some of the early church fathers. Some of the church fathers that would probably villainized eventually, but some of them were very much establishing that and saying, Jesus is a different God. He's a very much different God. There were two gods that they believed in. And there's some versions of that are much more complicated. When you get into the book of Enoch, you see some of that. All these groups of angels and demons fighting. Some of the people and prophets being exalted to a higher place where they were started as humans and become these, almost divine Messiah figures. People kind of going up and down the ladder, as it were, of divinity. It's crazy. It's all variations on a theme. It's people making up stories. If they had cameras, like movie cameras back then, and green screens, this would have all been part of the Marvel universe. It's just that was their movies back then. They just took it way too seriously. So your James says, if God is all-knowing and he knows the future, why would he have to spend all of his time watching people sin? Yeah, that's a great point. Mark, I believe the Marcionites largely follow the same premise. Yeah, for sure. I was going to mention that group. Christ was from the source, not from the demiurge. Hence the discontinuity between the Old and New Testament. Yeah, you really do see that. You see this strong divergence where Jesus says, you've heard it said, meaning from Moses, but ultimately from Yahweh. You've heard it said, but I say. It's like, well, wait a second. If I am the Father of one, so you are Yahweh, then why would you have to say, you've heard it said from Yahweh in the Old Testament, but I say this much better version? No. Are you the same God saying the same thing or not? Myth Vision podcast on YouTube explains a lot. Yeah, I would not be surprised if he's touched on this in some of his interviews, for sure. Steve says, when I walked away from the deeply flawed worldview called Christianity, I realized how useless seminaries are. So many bright folks with great minds waste decades nitpicking the fine details of myth. Yes, that is a great point. And eventually they don't even necessarily stay there. They even get to like the subsection, which is theology, and then a lot of them get to the subsection, which is church polity. You go from the mythology of the Bible and hermeneutics and studying the Bible to what is my systematic theology. What did Calvin say? What did Luther think? What did Spurgeon say? How do we interpret this systematic theology and put all these pieces together? And then they get into church polity and church leadership of is Presbyterian right? Well, which version of Presbyterianism? And it's just like you're going from starting with mythology and then moving on to all these little subsections of it. It's like you're wasting your absolute, complete life over this stupidest stuff. Like none of this is even real. So your Lord Voldemort, latest video on Myth Vision podcast is Jesus. What Jesus fabricated. Let me show that one. Yeah, what Jesus fabricated. The stories, to me, one of the reasons I'm 90% mythicist is it's like all the stories are clearly fabricated. There are copies of the Old Testament, there are copies of the Greco-Roman mystery cults, etc. that we talk about. If there was a real guy Not to say that there weren't real guys named Yeshua at that time frame, but or whatever the Aramaic version of that was. But if it was the real guy who was really doing stuff, and this was all based on him, why make all these stories up? Just tell us what he actually did. Tell us what he actually did. The fact that they had to make up just about 99% of his stories is a big, like, it's a hard jump for me to say almost every single story in the Gospels can be traced to the Old Testament in terms of copying from Moses and David and Joshua, Elijah. We can see they're copying those stories. We can see they're copying from the Book of Enoch. We can see they're reversing it, like the whole reversing Hermon from the whole, what is it? What's his name? Michael Heiser. You're reversing Enoch. We're redoing the Old Testament stories. Then we clearly see they're redoing Homer's Odyssey. It's like eventually you just get to a point where it's like, so you're going to tell me, as someone who believes that Jesus was a historical figure, that he was real, but all these stories are fake, but he's still real. Like, what? How can you say that? How can you say all this is mythology and legend, and yet he's real? It doesn't follow me. I'm very, very much in line with the idea that he probably was mythological. But I would say there's a lot of question marks out there. But and I know that people are against Zeitgeist, and a lot of people are very skeptical of astrotheology. Even some of the people that I really respect are against astrotheology. I'm going to be doing some projects to hopefully bring it back. I don't think Achari was off. If anyone doesn't know who Achari is, DM Murdoch, keep tuned. You'll find out. She had a lot more to say, and we're going to bring her back in the limelight at some point. Dissolution Pony Tricks. Mark, when I was deconstructing, I came across Marcion. I was like, what the hell? Well, this makes sense. Yeah, absolutely. There's also Dark Matter. Yeah, that channel is awesome. Mark Vinipolato, someone who was Christian homeschooled to believe in young Earth creationism, about 6,000 years, and dinosaurs coexisted with human beings. Yeah. They have to make up all kinds of garbage to explain it, saying that the light that we know is billions of years that God made the light in between all the little stages to kind of trick us. Like, God is so deceptive. It's just the Henry, my sister-in-law, who is a physician, believes there were dinosaurs in the Ark. The cognitive distance is alarming. Yeah. I mean, you think, too, just jumping off that, Henry, the idea that the people in our government who make the biggest decisions, the justices, the people who have their fingers on the biggest weapons on the planet, they believe in praying to Mother Mary. They believe in
God
magic.
damn it.
They believe in angels and demons. It's frightening.
God fucking damn it.
This world needs to be moving towards secularism so badly. That stuff needs to be old news, very old news.
God
Alex, I
fucking damn
volunteered to
it.
do dishes at church a couple of times. I always ended up doing most of it because everyone else wanted to just chat. Yeah. There's some interesting church memories I think we all have of things that were kind of interesting or funny or weird. A lot of great channels out there doing some great work. Dragons, Genesis, absolutely. If he is all knowing, he must have been aware Jesus was going to rise from the dead in 3 days, so what's the big deal? Yeah, agreed. And, if Jesus knew this was basically like a long weekend, as they say, like if you've been around for all of eternity, and you will be for all of eternity, and you're really outside of eternity in terms of the human experience of eternity, but you're the definition of eternity, then 3 days in a temporal context means nothing. That's like the blink of an eye. Yeah, it wasn't a real suffering. It really wasn't. Mark Vanderpool says your sister-in-law, the physician, believes that all humans on the earth are descendants of incest between Noah's children. Yikes. Yeah.
God fucking damn it.
It is crazy. I think the talking duck in the Old Testament does not get enough press. Yeah. The Ark dinosaurs should have eaten them. Apology on YouTube. Yep, great stuff. And see here.
God damn it.
Tom again, if God is all powerful and they make a big deal about Jesus being his only begotten son, couldn't God just give himself another son? Or a million? Yeah.
God fucking
Great
damn
point.
it.
And it's interesting how in a lot of other religions
God
there
fucking
are three. There's a trinity. You see that in a lot of contexts. Usually there's a father, mother, and son. And originally the Holy Spirit was seen as very feminine, very much feminine. Although you could certainly make the argument that Mother Mary was the female figure in a sense. A lot of this too is the idea that the female in this picture is the personification of wisdom. Like from Proverbs, where you see wisdom crying in the streets, the goddess Sophia, and it just gets merged in. Christianity is paganism repackaged. So here, Kevin McGrew, the crucifix, what does it truly symbolize? The palette and competence hanging on a tree. Yeah.
There's no way in hell
the idea that God has to
stick my dick
crucify our
on Paul's
chosen
blood.
Son, put all of our sins on him. You've had eternity to come up with a plan. That's the very best you can do. At a time when almost nobody saw it. I mean, the whole almost nobody was, compared to the whole population of the world at that time. Almost nobody was right there. Just a few dozen people, maybe a few hundred people at best, were seeing it. Most of those people who saw it did not understand its significance if it really happened. If there wasn't Jesus, son of Joseph, so to speak, who got hung on a
Suck
tree.
my dick, bitch.
If that happened, almost no one saw it. Almost no one that saw it knew what it was about. It didn't mean anything to almost anybody. It wasn't on video. No one could go back to it.
Suck my
And the only people that were able to really publicize it were largely quiet. The historians of that day.
Suck my dick.
A lot of historians that recorded a lot of that kind of stuff. They didn't record that stuff. If you look back, I know Christians try to claim otherwise. Look closer at their claims. Look closer at the claims that there were historians reporting about Jesus. It's not what you think. They're not reporting on Jesus. They're reporting on what Christians eventually
Okay, last
said.
game. Win, lose, draw, list, better. The boy
many
one
years later,
freeze the
some
rematch. Right,
decades
fucking quit for
and
a
beyond
fucking
later.
reason.
They're not reporting on what they saw happen in history.
Shit.
They're reporting on
Suck
what
my
other
dick,
Christians
bitch.
are claiming as part of their system. It's not the same thing as historians reporting on actual events. BG, I never understood the necessity of the human sacrifice. Speak a universe into existence, you can't speak forgiveness. Great point. Great point. Why can we forgive, but he can't just by saying it? I forgive you. Everything's done. We become better than God on so many levels. I found most modern churches, the pastor basically just does a TED Talk. Yeah. That's a good way to put it. I can agree with that. One of my biggest red flags I should have seen before deconverting was the communion ritual where we pretend to eat a dead guy. Also the clear brainwashing of worship service. It's so obvious now. Yeah. The manipulation, getting you to a point where you feel so needy, where you feel like you just, woe is me, I'm so bad, God. Can somebody please rescue me? Thank the heavens you're here, God, to pull me up from this horrible pit of myself. I'm such a wretched sinner. Thank you, God, for showing me your mercy. It's just, they plummet you to the very bottom, and then they try to pull you back up. As Dan Barker says, it's like a doctor who cuts you with a knife and then tries to sell you the Band-Aid. That's all it is. That is amazing. Absolutely. Great call out there. The sheer number of churches in my town in the South, all the different denominations were a red flag. Yeah, the fact that, and so many of them say we're the best ones. Not all of them do. I'm sure that a lot of them are saying we have the right interpretation, and you really need to get in line with what we say, because we've really done our homework. It's like everyone's done their homework, and you're all still coming up with different answers. And God claims to be the God of not the God of confusion. So when does the confusion end? El Vibel, great to see you. And when God has all the power and authority and you're told his will is perfect, you start bending your morality to justify his disgusting and inhumane behavior. Yeah, great point. Very, very good point. I completely agree. It's insane. Stupid mythology will drag you into moral prostitution before you know it. Yeah, the fact, and that was honestly what got me out of Christianity. For anyone who doesn't know my story, feel free to check out my channel. I've got a couple of updates from my story on there over the years, but I was teaching my kids genocide, and that's what just grabbed my heart and said, you can't do this to your own children. You can't justify genocide. And that was the first time. My whole life that I really was stuck in my tracks and just shit, I've got a problem. I've got a real problem. I can't move forward, but I can't move back. And eventually, I just moved out. See here, LV Bell, exactly when you're born into it, your whole moral base is grown around that sick concept. Yeah. James, when I was 8 years old, my friend and I were walking behind the church, and the pastor came out with a stick and told us to knock off the beautiful yellow flowers on acres of land. We just walked away. Yeah, that's really weird. Poverty, sickness, childhood cancer, all earned or part of some perverse test. Yeah, exactly. Agreed as an African, churches still find a way to blame victims for slavery.
I think I just
colonization.
fucked up.
Africa is suffering because you're not devoted enough. Yeah, the ways that Christians have done this, especially a lot of white Christians historically, done so much damage. Meanwhile, it's the most religious region in the world. Yeah, it's insane. And it's time. It's time for this stuff to end. I have dwarfism, and I've been told my whole life my body is like this because of sin. That's so bizarre to me because I've been like this since birth. I am so sorry that you would have gotten those messages. That is awful. You just the way your body is, you're awesome exactly the way you are. And the fact that anybody would blame something like that on sin, it reminds me of that verse where the disciples were like, when the blind guy was being about to be healed, Jesus, what caused his blindness? Was it his parents' sin or did he sin? And it's just like, in that particular case, Jesus doesn't really knock that out of the park and say, well, that doesn't happen. He kind of intimates that does happen, but in this particular case, God made it blind just so I could make you see my power. But yeah, it's awful. I'm so sorry that you've been told those kind of messages. I certainly hope you are definitely offsetting that with the truth. It has nothing to do with reality. We appreciate so much your story, and if you ever do, by the way, feel like you want to share your story, we'd love to hear from you. Feel free to reach out to me on Facebook at Harmonic Jim. Yep, disgusting. What sin did I commit as a fetus? Yeah, exactly. Tim, if you consider doing debate on channels like Modern Day Debate, I know you've said debating Christians is pointless, and I agree 1,000%. It could be a valuable advertising opportunity. I'm open to the discussion. I've got a lot on my plate at the moment, so it's not my biggest priority, but I'd be open to it at some point. I see it, though, in many ways as just like their minds are closed. You have to ask yourself, where's my biggest bang for my buck? And where am I wasting my time and spinning my wheels? And also, where are the tricksters, the people that are like, they spend all their time not just worshiping God and studying the Bible, but they learn ways to try to make you look bad, try to put you on the spot, try to find questions you've never thought of, so that you have to stand there and say, I don't know, that's a good question. It's like they're just trying to get you on in the spotlight and make you look bad. And if you had some other colleagues with you, you had more time to go look some stuff up, you could come up with great answers. You can't do it on the spot.
Man, I could have stuck my dick in
They
it.
try to make you look bad. They try to make it look like you have no answers. And it's just
this is looking bad.
Someone wanted to send me a question. Some from some debate group wanted to say, "Hey, we've got a question. What do you think?" I'd be open to doing
this is looking bad for a black ass.
But on the spot debating to me is a very foolish choice for most people. Just because the other side is they're going to spend a lot of their time specifically trying to just trick you. That's what they're not about truth. They're about tricking. You are your own God. Your powers. Your own powers.
I just eared your rook.
They would then tell you that it's your ancestors' sins. Yeah, nonsense. Exactly. After deconverting, I messaged dozens of people on Facebook that I shared the gospel with, apologized profusely for sharing lies. Yeah, and of course, a lot of them, if they're Christians at that point, they're going to say, no, you don't apologize, you need to come back to Christ. Joel Eastman, reading the Bible 3 times and researching real origins of Yahweh put me in the non-believer section. That's awesome. Joel, so glad you escaped. Absolutely. I'm going to sort of skip through quickly because I've kept this here for over an hour and a half, but I'll try to just get through a few highlights. Ed Rady, committing to blind faith in God, aka church leadership, is so easy, right? Yeah, definitely glad.
Oh!
And I'm going to try to see if there's any that I can see.
I was going to do this.
That haven't done. So here, Allie, read the story about Shiva. Yeah, that was a big one. David basically used his power. He's basically a rapist and a murderer in that story, and yet we sing his praises. It's insane. He's a man after God's own heart. in his current day and age, he would have completely lost his ministry. He would have been completely discredited. He would have spent his time in prison. He would have been seen as doing some crimes against humanity, and yet we sing his praises. It's super weird that genital mutilation in boys increases sensation, and female genital mutilation leads to a lack of sensation. Yeah, it is fascinating, but either way, just the idea of, why would God make us one way and then say, I want you to radically mutilate yourselves? Loved your story. Yeah, thank you so much. Let's see here. Keep questioning and follow up. Yeah, absolutely. Good reminder for all of us. Tim, when you were in Christian, did you ever get into preterism and Israel only? I did not. I am in touch with several people. In fact, one of my very close friends, it was very much into that. And we got some people that were into sort of not the same thing, but a related group where they talked about, we are supposed to do all of the, we're the new Israel, but we're also supposed to do all of the old holidays, the Jewish holidays. So they basically were literally trying to keep all the festivals and the feasts and the old calendars, variations on a theme. But no, I didn't get into some of those at all. Honestly, I didn't even know about preterism in Israel only until I was way out of Christianity. I had never heard about it. So that particular one didn't suck me in. The one that sucked me in was Calvinism. I was a hyper Calvinist. Hyper Calvinist. And I'll explain that more what I mean another day. But it's a big deal. Let's see here. Tim, I'm curious why you promote Toby as singer on your channel page. Isn't he promoting mythology? The last time I looked at that thing of channels to recommend was quite a while ago. I'm not recommending him in the sense of that he's not recommending mythology. He is promoting it. And I would say,
he wasn't bad. That was a god shit, Jack fucking shit. God,
shit. He got people like us.